Uganda Political Forum here in Sydney, Australia. I'm happy to be joined today by a team of Ugandans from the community here, and the topic to discuss tonight is about the term limits restoration. Should they be restored or not? Introducing members from my immediate left is Edward Temanike, a member of the Ugandan community here in Sydney. Say hello to viewers.
Good evening.
And then we have Moses Tutu Mukasa, a very staunch member of the Ugandan community here in Sydney, Australia.
Good evening, viewers.
On my right is Robert Hiria, also a very common face in the Ugandan community here in Sydney.
Good evening.
And then that is Tony Dizala, another very good staunch member of the community based here in Sydney, Australia.
Good evening, dear viewers.
Members, you're welcome to this debate. As I said earlier on, we are going to look at the boiling points right now in Uganda, and that's about the term limit, presidential term limit. Should they be restored or not? Just to give you a clue of what has been happening, a brief history about this. In 1995, we got a new constitution in Uganda after a term of turmoil. We came together as a Ugandan community and we came up with a new constitution. This constitution was amended in 2005, and that's when some articles were removed. Among these sensitive articles was the article about the presidential term limits that was put out on agreement by members of parliament. Today, 2012, the concern is, should the presidential term limits be restored, or should we keep that article of presidential term limits out? And I'll start with members on the panel. Tony, to give us a light into that. The question is to you. Should the presidential term limits be restored, or should we keep it out of the constitution?
Thank you very much, dear panelists and Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, viewers. Term limits is one of the hottest debates now in Uganda, but not only in Uganda, in so many other countries. If you look at what happened in Senegal recently, the president wanted to scrap presidential term limit, and he couldn't succeed. So what happened? People rioted and went on the street, and they ended up voting him out of power. We also look at Thabo Mbeki of South Africa at one time attempted to convince the inner circle whether they could give him a term limit. They told him that if it was Nelson Mandela, maybe we would have given him a term limit. But there is no way we can amend the constitution. So term limit is one of the debates, but if you look at what happened in the whole world, there are some countries, especially the Commonwealth, they don't have term limits, for presidential term limits, or prime ministers. What happened in the term limits is it is within the party, the democratic institution or the democratic machinery within the party that puts like the stops where a prime minister cannot rule more than one term. So term limit is very important, and as we are going to discuss here, we find that there are pros and cons. We have people who support it, there are people who are against it. But what is very important is, it's not the term limit which is very important here. The important thing is, do we have good governance? If we have good governance, like Margaret Thatcher ruled for how many years? Over 15. Yeah. John Major ruled for a short time. Tony Blair, 10 years, and it members of what for the prime minister, but because the party told him that he is going to lose, the party was going to lose. So instead of sacrificing the party, they had sacrificed the what? The prime minister. So it is the issue about the party to rule. If you look at Japan, for example, there was one party which ruled for 50 years, but prime ministers were changing within the party. So there was no term limit. So the party itself has got a mechanism where it can float its agenda to the people such that it is serving them. So the issue here is not about term limit, it's about delivery of services.
All right, thanks very much, Tony. You've brought out one point which I know is going to really ignite a debate here. You're talking about the aspect of the party, where the party has to decide or determine whether the term limit should be on or not. And that's what President Museveni has come up with. President Museveni is the chairman of NRM party. He's saying, go back to the parties and let the party come up with a strong point to debate. If the parties need term limits, we shall have them, but it shouldn't be an open-air debate. Eddie, what's your view?
My view is that if we compare developing countries and developed countries within the Commonwealth setting, to just expound on what you were saying, term limits are there but not treated in developed countries, simply because the electoral process is developed itself.
Yeah.
When you look at a country like Uganda, where the electoral process is still a baby, even as we celebrate 50 years of independence, it calls for term limits to be there. And by the way, my own thinking is it was almost a treasonable act to move term limits in the first place. Because I believe that such a document should not be tampered with until such facts are tested, to see if they are good or bad, or if they work or if they don't work.
Yeah.
So it was a wrong to remove term limits in the first place.
Excellent. Yep.
And term limits are very, very important for countries like Uganda with a young democracy, as they say. Because, like as he was saying, look at our own country, Australia here. John Howard was a very good prime minister. But after 10 years, they decided they needed a change. It would have come within the party itself, or another party comes in. And so goes to every other developed country without term limits in their constitutions.
Excellent.
You don't find someone ruling for 25 years,
30 years, no.
30 years. And I think the main problem with Uganda is also to do with the ruling party at the moment. Because they're not seeing it as a party ruling, they're seeing it as an individual ruling. So if we look beyond President Museveni and say, okay, let's have term limits, but that doesn't mean that the NRM party will be out of power.
Okay.
You can get someone else in to be the chairman of the NRM party, and he becomes president again, and NRM party can rule for another 50 years.
True.
But the president has to change, because we're all human beings, and every human being has a limit, like a capacity limit. You can't have ideas for the rest of your life.
No way. All right, thanks very much, Eddie. And that has really brought out points that I know one of the panelists here is really coming up to debate upon. I mean, President Museveni was asked a question, are you going to die in office? Are you going to die as a president? And he said, no, if I die, the vice president will take over. But before I come, but why do we need to restore term limits? Do we really need to restore term limits in Uganda?
I would answer yes, we do. If you look at Africa as developing Africa, term limits will be required to be restored. Somebody has to have a limit where, you come in, somebody else has to come and take over. The ideas, you may run out of ideas as a leader, but let's forget about that. The advantage of putting back the term limits will prevent so many happenings like what we see. It creates corruption. Somebody has overstayed as a leader. It creates corruption in so many cycles.
Patronage.
Yes. So if somebody has a limit of let's say 5 years, maybe, you never know, he might do wrong also in 5 years because he knows he's going. But on the other hand, it gives us a chance to see other leaders behind there. We don't know. There are so many people with so many ideas. You may think you're alone, but I think it's right to restore term limits.
All right, thanks, Robert. And this is just the right time to bring in my friend Moses. Moses, the issue on the table is term limits, and I mean, members seem to think that it's right to change powers, to change roles. But look, in 2005, when we were amending the constitution, the article about term limits, as I think Eddie has mentioned, it was uncontested. It was not a very big thing. It was not a hot debate to be removed out of the constitution. So my question to you, I need your view. Why was the article about term limits, presidential term limits, removed in 2005? And Robert, as Eddie again has just said, it is more to do with individualism in NRM. Are we seeing individualism in NRM? Are we seeing anything beyond the individual of Museveni? Can we see NRM get another figure? But the first thing, why did we remove term limits in 2005?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I wish to issue, because first and foremost, I participated in the making of the Constitution. I presented my views to the Audit Commission, and while the Constitution was being made, I participated as an observer. I was an official observer. That Constitution of Uganda currently is a unique constitution in the entire world, because it has the backing of all the people of Uganda. Before the Constitution starts, there is a preamble which says, we, the people of Uganda, having gone through what we have gone through, we have made this document as a working document which will guide us through all the problems towards prosperity. Chapter 18 of the Constitution says that some articles were supposed to be amended. For example, Article 269, which was restricting political parties to operate at the same time when movement was operating. That Constitution says that there shall be 3 political systems in Uganda. Multi-party political system, movement political system, and any other political system that will come, which will be democratic, which has never come, for that information. But Chapter 18 was strictly talking about amendments in the Constitution. So for people who came out to amend the Constitution, you can't say they were in the wrong. They were simply fulfilling, because there were some provisional articles within the Constitution. There were some of those which are supposed to be tested. And in Uganda, the problem is not who is ruling and who has stayed more in leadership. For example, Mr. Chairman, Tanzania got independence in 1961, more earlier than Uganda. Uganda got independence in 1962. For us, Kenya attained its independence in 1963. Tanzania, since independence, has had just 4 presidents, from Nyerere, Ali Hassan Mwinyi, Benjamin Mkapa, and now Kikwete. Then in Kenya, we had Jomo Kenyatta, Arap Moi, and Mwai Kibaki. But if someone says that someone has overstayed, that means Kenyans have been changing their leaders while Uganda has not been doing so. Uganda has had 10 leaders since independence, just 10 of them. So changing leadership has never been the issue of us in Uganda. We have our own problems. We know what we want. The issue is not who is overstaying. Even that word overstaying is ridiculous to some extent. The people of Uganda feel it very annoying, because after 5 years they go to voting, they go to elections which are not contested. Even those people who want to go and contest the elections, they have always been overruled by the courts of law. But I hear the people saying that we cannot win Museveni. Of course they are right. For example, Mr. Chairman, I know that you are a sportsman. You remember when the Cranes was having Majid Musi? He was a striker, a very good striker. But supposing other opponent teams comes out and say, why do you bring Majid Musi all the time? They ask the coach of the other team that you should not bring that one. It's very unfair. You should make him start right, because
he's our best.
They are right in their own thinking. Because for them, of course, they can't succeed. But that team, which owns him, believes that without him, maybe they will not win. Because a political organization has missions and programs to offer. One thing is for a political organization, we sell it. Who will help us to go through? Because we can't implement a program unless you are in leadership. So they should know that when we have a program, who are we going to sell? Who is going to lead us? That's the question. The people of Uganda are very comfortable with the leadership. And they are not complaining. But the complaints is coming from leaders at some levels because for them they feel they have no chance of coming to leadership.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, finally, there has been this talk of election, that our electoral process is still young. That's also ridiculous. We have had one of the best electoral systems in the world as we speak now. Yes. You see, some people are saying that elections were, for example, Forum for Democratic Changes, the main opposition group, when we were having the last general elections, out of the 279 constituencies, they could not manage to fill candidates to 2/3 of the entire constituency. Failure to get even someone who is at the level of S6 to stand to represent the party in that constituency. FDC. 2, we have 112 districts in the country. FDC managed to fill only 68 people to aspire for chairmanship of the district in the country. Before we even voted, NRM had 112 MPs who had either gone unopposed or were standing against fellow movements in the elections. So when people say that there is rigging in the elections, you fail to understand. So I believe the people of Uganda are very much comfortable with what is going on. In the year 2005, we had to open up some articles in the Constitution. One of them was opening up for the political space to allow parties to operate. 2 was to remove Article 105, which was limiting the terms of the president to only 2. The people of Uganda said that that job should be given to us to decide who is ruling us. We have the capacity and the means to vote someone out of power.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good. Thanks for that. Yeah, there are some members have very interesting views to come in. Yes, Eddie.
Just a quick one with my colleague here. I think for an electoral commission to be seen to be mature, as my brother here says, it has to be acceptable to all participants in the process.
True.
So if out of how many political parties contested in the 6 or 7 or whatever, none of the others are comfortable with that electoral commission, it's common logic that there's something wrong with it.
Can I answer that?
No, first completed,
Yeah. And also to go on with the complacency thing, whereby is in power for so long, it becomes hard to separate the political party and the government.
True.
And I think that's a major problem, where we are going to create a system of patronage. You start to see institutional failures, you know. And I think that's where term limits are important for a developing democracy, because our democracy is still developing, whether we like it or not.
Okay, Tony, you had something to shoot in. Yeah.
I think the debate is going to heat up. But what I'm seeing here is, do we need term limits? Why do we need term limits? Because in the beginning I was saying there are pros and cons in the discussion. So when we are talking about...
Robert has told us we need them. And he gave us his point.
he gave. My colleagues have discussed it. They are saying NRM is the party that should be there. And now my colleague had talked about there is no separation between the party and the leader. The leader is the party. And the leader said he's the only man who has the vision for the country. That's okay. And now, if I want to draw you back, where has all this come from? If you remember in the beginning, we had a minister like Bidandi. Bidandi used to tell us, we call it the what have you done for yourself? Okay? Bidandi will say, what have you done for yourself? If you analyze that statement says that you are there for individual accumulation of rights, not national interest. Now, we have a problem in Uganda, that we are not separating individual interests with national interests. Individual interests are overriding national interests. Even within NRM itself, you find that we have the problem we are having, that we are getting now intrigue, infighting. If you look at the by-elections, how many constituencies have NRM lost to the opposition? You find they have lost, and the speaker of the NRM, Mr.
Chief Whip or Speaker?
No, it's the speaker of NRM.
Ofono
Opondo is quoted having said that the problem we are having in NRM is because we have internal difficulties, that people are now realizing that we are not divided. Now, that's a problem which is coming up. Now, we need new blood in the political system. How do you inject new blood within the political system when we have got these long-term politicians who are there for their personal interest, not national interest?
If I can just cut you short, why do we need new blood?
Why do you need blood? What has happened? The old guards have become complacent with the national issues.
Okay. Yeah. I get it. Thank you very much. Now, that's another angle which I want to see Robert's view. First of all, you've brought up the idea that there's a lot of individual interest overriding national interest. And you have summed up that with also saying that we need new blood. Now, Robert, ever since NRM came into power, they brought about the LC system. They have expanded the parliament to include so many groups. We are seeing so many youngsters coming through those systems to come and be part of the governance of the country. Now, to refer to what my friend Tony is calling new blood, do you feel that term limits would bring about new blood, or do we already see new youngsters in power?
First of all, I'll tell you that everything has a beginning and an end.
Yep.
If you get that very well, that's why when we are working, you're employed and you have to retire at a certain stage. Why do you have to retire? There are people who are, I mean, that's when you can serve up to that age. That's when you're active up to that age. You know, there are other people who can do the same job as you have been doing it. I will tell you that when His Excellency, the President of Uganda, had just come,
Museveni.
he from every corner of the country, he was loved.
Sure.
That one was not debatable. Right now, as we speak, it's a reality. Whatever Moses has gone through to say this was people's word, this was people's view, it's not from anyone. This, I will tell you that it can be passed with only a few people saying, let's change this, and then it will be people's view. Whatever reason is given, or we need term limits back to limit people to do wrong things, to serve us better, because you are accountable to the people. When you are a leader, you are accountable to the people. All the things you are talking about, LC, so many districts, all this is manipulating to see how you can really stay, get grip, stay longer. That's why you are seeing all this. You are saying you are sending services closer to people. No, instead you are spending more money
To bring the service.
You know, you are spending more money to create all of this.
Okay.
So that I've told you that everything has a beginning and an end.
Okay.
There's when you are active and when you start deteriorating. We have to agree with this. There are people who are surrounding you, who are benefiting from this, that you don't have to go. We don't mind whether NRM to stay. Within NRM, they can be, I mean, when
someone else.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. I'll come back to Moses. Moses, now you've heard all the views that are coming in, and still, I'll also go back to one of your points that you brought about, that most of these changes, like NRM has brought about, people's changes. Like NRM comes back to the people, they ask the people what they want, and they implement. Now, if I can take you back in 2005, when the term limit debate came on, there was word that most of the NRM members of parliament, or those with attachment to NRM members of parliament, were given 5 million to bias their decision and therefore bring the term limit article out of the constitution. Do you see the 2005 amendment as a reflection of all Ugandans? Do we see that Ugandans in 2005 they did not want the term limit?
Thank you
We
very
should
much.
wait for a referendum.
I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Let's go to a referendum on that.
And Eddie saying we should have gone to the referendum.
I
by
need
then.
protection.
You are protected.
Going to a referendum, something that is not contentious is not taken for referendum. We only go to referendums when the
If
issue...
something is contentious.
Yes. And
Yep.
it wasn't this time.
Yep.
So, the issue of the 5 million, because it had been brought up various times,
Yep.
you know, we had gone to multipartyism.
Mm.
The movement organization
Mm.
has a duty to facilitate its members.
True.
This was a time when we were going to have changes within the constitution.
Mm.
So the movement decided through its organs that we have to facilitate our members to go and consult the constituents.
Okay.
Because whenever Parliament is going to the recess, they facilitate members of Parliament to go and consult.
5 million each time?
No, it depends. Sometimes more, sometimes more, sometimes less. The movement did this just to facilitate its people, so that by the end of the day, the outcome of the views will be belonging to the people, not to anybody else. That's why they had to go. And we had a mechanism to go and find out really whether these MPs have gone down to consult the people. Those who never went down, we are brought to book, and they had to account for that money. So that money was used for the exercise. And I don't think it had anything wrong to do with that.
No.
Those parties which don't have money, I pity them, because some parties, of course, in Uganda don't have the funds to go down. You see? By the way, do you have political parties really in Uganda?
We do, but just on the aspect of money, how does NRM get its money?
NRM, members of the National State Movement, have been in government for over 25 years. For example, myself, every month, I was contributing money from my salary to the party coffers. Definitely, contributions.
Yeah.
We have to. They deduct money from our salaries direct to the party coffers.
Okay.
So just a quick point of information. Every time there's an election in Uganda, there's a requirement for each political party to open its books to the Electoral Commission.
Yep.
And up to date, it is known that the NRM party has not opened its audited books to the Electoral Commission.
The last time I heard about that one, we were talking of three parties, FDC, NRM, and UPC.
Yeah.
Of course, the Electoral Commission knows what to do. I won't dwell much on that. They
yeah.
know what to do in case a party fails to do that.
To declare.
I shouldn't like to dwell myself on that issue. But what I'm talking about here is really on whose behalf are we presenting our views? For example, he said that for an Electoral Commission to be really weighted, it has to have the backing of each and every one. Do you expect a criminal to agree on the judge who is supposed to preside over his case?
No.
No, he may not. The people of Uganda decided that the government, the president, will appoint, will nominate members of the Electoral Commission. Parliament will approve.
True.
Parliament is an organ which represents the people directly. The people elects members of the parliament. Members of the parliament approves the nominated names from the president of the people who are supposed to serve in the Electoral Commission. That is being done in that country. So what do they want us to do? For me, what I believe the problem is, we don't have political parties. They don't represent anything. For example, here, you talk about Labour Party. It represents some of the workers.
True.
The Farmers Party, the Conservative Party, the rich people. They have their own parties. But imagine in Uganda, the Conservative Party is led by someone who sleeps in swamps. He's always quarreling, yes, quarreling to terms. He doesn't have a reason, but he's leading a party of the would-be rich people. That's where the problem comes from.
Okay, let me just focus this a little bit before Tony comes in. I just want to put this clear to you. And just give us this in plain points. Why doesn't NRM want to restore presidential term limits?
It's not the NRM. Even after 5 years, the people of Uganda have a right to
We're talking
amend.
about term limits now.
Yes,
Yep.
the people of Uganda have a right to amend the constitution, even after 5 years. One, they can do that through the LC5 chairman. 2/3 of the chairmen of the can bring a proposal to parliament. They have that right. Members of parliament, 2/3, they can bring up the motion back to parliament, and it is debated. Or through a referendum. People, the registered voters in Uganda, 2/3 of the registered voters in Uganda can call upon to decide whether to put back the term limits in the constitution. For us, we don't have a problem.
Good.
We don't have a problem.
Good, we don't have a problem. Yeah, before Robert comes in, Tony, do we need a referendum?
Look, before even we talk about the referendum, there are so many issues if we are going to talk about term limits. Term limits is just one of the last issues that we need to come to rectify the problem that the country is having. If you look at the constitution, if you guys have read the Ugandan constitution, how much power does the president have? And the president appoints the ministers, although they are approved by the parliament. The president appoints the judges, they have to be approved by the parliament. Now, if the parliament is composed of the majority of the ruling party, that means what the president says is what is approved by the parliament.
But for information,
wait.
Can I give you information?
The president,
Give you
Yeah, point of information.
many times when the president appoints ministers and they're being rejected by the very parliament. At sometimes he appoints judges and they are rejected.
Yeah, I'm coming. I'm not saying I'm not. So my issue is how much power does the president have, and is this a democratic institution that we are building for the children to come? Now, look at other countries. We want to make a comparison here. If we are going to build a sustainable democratic system which will go beyond the individual, because what we are lacking in Uganda, what is missing is, I have no problem personally with the president being the man with the only vision. But like Mirambo, who built the kingdom on his own personality, when he died, the kingdom crumbled. Now, are we strategizing for tomorrow? What happened in Malawi recently, the president woke up and died. But because they had a very strong institution, although the ruling party was trying and change the constitution that they can make the brother of the late president become the president. But that could not be, because the constitution was very clear on that. Now, I'm not saying we provide for that, but we are saying, do we have enough checks and balances within the ruling party for it to... Well, now we have two issues. Do you have democratic institution or democracy operating within the NRM party itself? You remember last time when we had this national convention at Nambole, there were issues that came up.
True.
There was Mbabazi and Otafire, they are in fighting who wants to be the general secretary, and recently when the NIC met, there's even an issue there coming in. That's very healthy, I'm saying that's very healthy. But my question is, that I want to take to put to Moses. Do you see NRM beyond Museveni?
Why not?
I think he's already answered.
No, you was going to say why not, because in NRM we have to...
Can I respond?
No, wait.
Before you have thrown a question.
Yeah, let me use my time first, okay? The issue we are having, in NRM we have people who believe, because they are the people who have been in power, who have access to resources, they don't want to tell the truth. That we have a problem within the party. There's a lot of corruption within NRM, within the people of NRM, within the country. But these people, because they see if Museveni goes away, the party is going to crumble. So they are trying not to come up and tell Museveni what is true. Okay?
Yeah. Now
we want
Term limits will solve.
Term limits will solve the problem, because one, if there is a very strong opposition, if a leader knows is going to serve for 5 years, this will put pressure on him to deliver services. If he does not deliver, either his party is going to lose, or is going to be voted out by his party, so he will decide. Either he will lose as the president or the party loses. So there will be a lot of pressure on this particular person to deliver. But if we leave it open, compliance comes in.
Now let me come in before. We shall come for clarification later. But Eddie, this is becoming a little bit interesting, because the NRM government has come out. The president himself has said, look, I'm not stopping term limits. I'm not blocking any debate about term limits.
He blocked it. But there's no.
No. What he said, this is what he said. He said, but he's encouraging parties, political parties in Uganda, to come up with a general view inside the party if they want the term limit or not. Now, when Tony tells me, when Tony says that the NRM government is standing on one man, and once that man goes, it will crumble, do you share the same view?
It probably will have troubles, because right now there's a problem of separating the person of and the NRM. Because, for instance, it's very common. Like, they have got NRM caucus meetings in State House.
Yeah.
You know? In any other democracy, that won't work. You know? Because that means they're using state resources to organize party functions. You know? So that all comes in with what we're up to do, like the term limits. Because if you had term limits, you'll be pushing to leave a legacy, as you, as me, as Moses, that the 10 years I've got, what do I do? Like he was saying, do I do good, so I leave a legacy so that my party keeps going? Or do I keep going and going and going for 26 years so that when I go, the party goes?
Sure.
You
Okay, yeah, thanks. And we shall, before I know Moses wants to come in here. But Robert, I know your view. Your view is that term limits will check on corruption and to bring in new ideas and so on. But my point here is Moses has told us that every after 5 years the people of Uganda have a right to decide whether to change the constitution or not. And also they have an opportunity to change governance if they want to change leadership after the terms. Now, Museveni is still a popular man in Uganda. Every election we are seeing him having 100% landslide votes. So if we are still having a president who is still popular, why should we limit his popularity by putting in term limits?
I'll tell you that in a situation where a country like Uganda, people are so poor, anything can go through. Anything can go through. Whatever you are hearing from Moses saying, the people decided this, we went and consulted this, anything, as long as people are poor, you can come in and do anything and use money to do anything and it will go through.
So are you saying NRM is using money to bias the people?
I mean, I can't rule that out.
Yep.
I can't rule that out. Because you remember when we were discussing about corruption, has the NRM government failed? You know? Corruption under the government is so hidden. It comes in so many corners. A situation like when it's election time and the government comes out and gives money to MPs at that time to go and supervise government work at that time of election. What do you call that? So, when we come back to a country which is poor, to deal with a population of that nature is also a different matter. Now you can overrule in anything when you have money.
Let me cut you. Just a quick one. Okay.
The recent barometer survey has said 75% of Ugandans think President Museveni is taking the country in the wrong direction. They say he's not the right person to take the country in the right direction.
But he has
that is a survey. Before that, he has gone. Okay, he's gone in a good direction. But right now, the survey says he's taking the country in the wrong direction.
No, Robert, before you continue, I mean, you are bringing up very serious issues here. You are bringing up an issue about corruption. You are bringing up an issue about poverty. Now, to me, those are pressing issues in a country like Uganda than term limits. So why should we spend our time debating about term limits if we are still being buried in corruption and poverty?
I'll tell you that when there are no term limits, it creates all this we are talking about: poverty, corruption, and everything. You know. But if somebody was working within the frame time, you are accountable. If you have not really done what people expect you to do, then they'll wait for you. The Constitution says after 10 years you are away. You know, you will go. But here in our country, Uganda, that was taken out. I'll take you back that when His Excellency had just come.
Let's wind up. Yeah.
The first 10 years, if anyone was supposed to account for anything in the first 10 years, he did very well. But as we speak, he has deteriorated. Not because maybe he likes it, but maybe because of the forces surrounding him. You know, that survey Eddie is talking about, I mean, it's really a sin. You look at the first thing was Kampala. Kampala was eaten up first. People were against the ruling party. It has moved on to Mukono. It has moved on to Entebbe. It has moved on to Luwero, Jinja.
Yeah.
These things were not happening before. You know, they were not happening before.
Yeah. No, yeah, thanks, Robert. Thanks for that. And I know my brother Moses wants to come in banning. Yeah.
He was supposed to respond to my question before. So.
Because now I find it difficult to respond to most of these questions.
No, sure.
Some of them were from him. Yeah. I didn't have time to respond to them.
Yeah.
But what I can say, really,
time is a resource.
We sat down and we agreed on how to move. We made a political document. We made a constitution. We don't want to do things the way we want them to be done. Sometimes I feel confused because this was saying that at the end of Museveni, then the enemy will collapse.
That's it, yeah.
Of course, that should have been their joy. They should wait for that time to come so that the movement collapses and they take over.
No.
Mr. Chairman,
I need my protection. That's my view.
Even myself, no one wants the party to
collapse because that
we want it healthy and
because you know why I'm saying this, Mr. Chairman.
But
I remember very well when we had just enacted this constitution. People were saying, no, Museveni is hiding under Article 269.
Yeah.
Let him remove that article. He allows us to operate.
True.
Our eyes are tiger high. Let him open the Article 269 so that we operate. We will build no more. The article was removed. Then they come opening up. We don't have space. He must open up the political space. He must allow parties to operate, to register, to go everywhere, to canvass for support. He will build no more. The political space was opened. Now they are saying term limits. Term limits. If we restore term limits, of course Museveni will go. When he goes, then we will be able to stand with another weaker person within the movement.
Yes, just a clarification.
But for us, we have a mission.
Point of information.
Our mission,
Point of information.
our mission
Point of
is to
information.
lead the people of Uganda to transform them towards modernity.
Excellent.
As we are doing that,
Yeah.
we are very conscious of listening to them, knowing what they want, knowing their aspirations too, to bring them on board.
Mr.
You remember when we were opening up the political
Yeah.
space,
Yeah.
these people were saying that we don't need to consult with people, and we said no, we must go through a referendum. They must have a say over this.
Point
That's
of
why we are saying,
information.
even this time,
Chairman.
for me, I
No,
don't
that's
have
fair
any problem with the term limits. If they want them to be restored, let them be restored. The movement will go ahead.
Yeah.
We have a mission, we have a program. If they want to bring term limits back, but what my concern, it must go through the right channels.
Excellent.
We must consult the
just
people of
before-
Uganda,
Moses.
and if the people of Uganda allow,
Point of
Yeah.
information.
Before point of information, just a clarification from you, Moses, because there's been an attack on the individualism of NRM. And how many members is NRM composed of? In a rough
Membership?
idea, membership, yeah. Is it over?
every village
Yeah.
in Uganda, we have 56,000 villages
Okay.
in Uganda. Every village
So all the members-
has got 30 leaders.
Leaders. Now, my
So-
question is, do all members participate in who is going to lead the party?
Because they are organs. They are organs from the village,
Yeah.
then to the parish and sub-county.
Yeah.
Then those ones at the sub-county,
Yeah.
they are straight away nominated to the neck.
So in summary, if Museveni goes, is there someone else to take over NRM?
Oh yes, we don't have a vacuum in the NRM.
Point of information.
For us, we are busy.
That's fine here.
Point of information, Robert. Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
That's a very good
Members, we
information.
are running out of time.
We are more than
We are running out of time. Point of information.
The
Yes.
term limits we're talking about are not really directing to one person. It's presidential.
Yep.
Whoever comes in as a president, we're not looking at His Excellency as the leader currently, although it touches him too.
He's the one who removed
But we are
them.
looking
Yep.
at
After him.
after he's gone. How do we prevent some of these things we are saying to occur? We are saying restoration of term limits.
Yes.
That's a lie.
You know?
Yeah.
So we are not looking at Mr. Museveni as the person. We are looking at
They
the
are not after
president.
him. Why don't they-
And I'll expand this.
Yes.
I'll expand on
Quick,
this
Robert.
again.
We are running out of time. Yeah.
If we look at the presidential, can we really still look at the MPs? If we want
That's the debate
term
we're
limits,
having now, yeah.
you know,
Should
should
it
it
limits to the MPs as
Yeah,
well?
yeah. I would go in
That's
for
a
that
good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question. But look, bringing you back, Robert, I mean, you want the term limit thing seriously, and you've given us your points. How many years? How many years should the president be in office?
2 terms.
2 terms of 5?
or 5?
Whatever the constitution says. If it
And-
says 7, like they're proposing, or
Then that will be
5.
15 years. And why what about the 3?
No, two terms of 5.
Why the one?
2 terms of 5. Because when you start a journey, the journey like programs for a country, they don't end. You just have to build on, improve on this and the other. You can't say, I have a target of 10 years, I'll finish this. That's a lie.
Yeah.
You do what you can in that frame time, which you have, and leave for another one to continue. But if you come whatever I started, haven't accomplished this,
Give me another 5.
then you won't live.
Something we are forgetting.
Because the programs don't end.
We are forgetting.
Ending
On the
quickly.
other side, there's what we are trying to get the East African community going.
Yeah.
But let us not forget that it's only Uganda that doesn't have term limits.
But it's not
So
required.
it's
Under the charter.
not a requirement,
That's
but
confusing.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Mr. Chairman,
It's not required.
that's very
But in
confusing.
order, it's not required.
Yeah.
But in order to be in
Which
sync,
order are you talking
no,
about?
to be in sync, in order to be in sync with our brothers and sisters in Tanzania and Kenya, we've got to be on the same kind of footing and understanding.
Okay.
It will be easier.
Okay.
Because they're going to come a situation where
Yeah.
the Ugandan president is going to be the head of the East African
Members,
Community.
yeah. Well,
In
so-
How are we going to
Tanzania-
have to sync that with...
in Tanzania, for example,
Mm.
they are living in a semi-communal system.
True.
Why don't we adopt that one as well
in Uganda.
in Uganda? If you think everything that is belong to any other country
Anyway,
should
bring
be
it
brought.
home.
Yeah, but
Yes,
that's-
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what
It can't. Uganda is a different setting too.
That's what, now you're shooting your own leg.
No.
At a political level,
Mm.
it has to be kind of on the at par with everyone else.
Okay.
Because
just-
we're integrating the economic aspect, we're integrating the immigration aspect, the customs and everything. So unless the top organs are integrated, I think we're on the wrong path to say that East African community is going to be born like soon.
Okay, yes, members, there are so many views. We are running out of time, and we are going to just focus this a little bit. Now, to turn it to you, back to you. The issue of term limits, I mean, has hit debates in all spheres in Uganda. Many people are talking about the fact that actually, without term limits, there is a room to create a dictator. Without term limits, a dictator will be created. Now, are we saying that term limits? That when there are term limits, we are sure of good leadership. We are sure that the person in power, one, won't be a dictator, and two, like Robert is saying, that term limits will definitely check on corruption, check on poverty, and so on. Are we saying that when there is term limits in Uganda, we shall see the end of such things?
Now look at China. China, they don't have term limits. And what is it? They have what they call benevolent dictator. So it's a dictator who rules with a strong hand for the benefit of his people.
True.
So China is the envy of all countries. The way it's done. We need within the we have two groups now within an area. Everybody knows that.
Which two groups?
There is a group which is saying. Remember when they met. Some group
The rebel-
rose up
the
and
rebel
they
group.
say, no. Individuals. Okay, call them individuals.
Mr. Chairman, that's misleading.
No.
Within the NRM party,
There's cliques.
just like
They are
any other
cliques.
organization, they are individual thoughts. Before we come out with any position, we have divergent views on what issues.
I'm
That's
saying-
how we begin.
Fine.
But we have to sit down, and when we come out with a position,
Yep.
then it's the duty of all members of the organization to follow suit.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you for that clarification. But what I'm saying is that there are voices within the NRM which are saying we need democracy within the institution.
Yep.
That we can have term limits within the party, then term limits in the constitution.
Okay.
Even look at UPC, look at FDC, for example. We are talking about the parties. Can they be ruled by term limit that somebody can only serve 2 terms? Basically, can Otunu, Museveni, who are the chairman of these parties. So we are not only targeting NRM, we are saying, can we have term limits within the party? Can we have term limits
But some parties
national?
will say,
Fine.
Yeah.
This is an issue we are saying, can we go to the referendum and decide on that? Okay. Even they have members of parliament who have served for 20 years. Can we also have term limits on them? Yes. And why do we need term limits? We are saying we need to inject in new blood. Two, we need also to put like pressure on the people. No, there is no room enough. We are saying if we bring in term limits, whoever will be a chairman, whoever will be a member of parliament will be under pressure to deliver. If he fails, within the party will be dropped, or within the national parliament. He will not go back. People want accountability. We are talking of term limits as a means of accountability and pressure for leaders to deliver.
Good. Now let me come in here, members, as we are running out of time. Eddie, I'm coming to you. The point here is Moses has just told us that NRM government, since it has been in power, most of the big changes that have come by, it has brought them to Parliament, and the Parliament has decided. Even in 2005, when the article about presidential term limits was removed, it was through the Parliament that it was. Now, the leader of the opposition in Parliament, Nandala Mafari, he said that most of the things are brought to the Parliament, and actually the Parliament is one-sided. The Parliament is dominated by NRM. That's what they say. There is a reason. But now, Eddie, my question is, if this issue, because right now what we are looking at, we want to see a peaceful, smooth transition of power, which has never taken place in Uganda. Supposing again the Parliament comes out and say no, we do not want term limits. Have the people of Uganda spoken? Would it be? If it does that, what is the next step?
We're just going to see the continued agitation of public, because we all know, like we discussed the first time, they are like, it's become individualistic. It's not in the interest of the people. Most of them.
What system can we use?
That's what I mean. Referendums should do that. It's not in the interest of the people. Whoever's in Parliament is there for their own bread, for their own new cars, for their own this, for their own that. They're not actually representative of the common people. That's why, if they were representative of the common people, we wouldn't have so much agitation going on right now.
Now, just to bring you in, can we blame NRM government for that, or we blame the people?
We blame the system.
No. Let me.
No, I'm not blaming the NRM government. I'm not blaming. We're blaming the system. Even the system of changing the constitution alone should, in the first place, should have been left to the Parliament.
Who is responsible for the system?
We the people.
Let me tell you.
That's a very complex situation.
Mr. Chairman, we have so many ways of knowing what the people want.
True.
I told you, out of the 112 districts, district councils, they are very close to the people. They can come with resolutions which can bring term limits back to the constitution. 2/3 of the districts in Uganda can easily do that without even a referendum. They can recommend and can come back. For sure, this is not a pro-people decision. It's for the leaders. For us in the movement, we don't have any problem with that.
No.
If they want to bring it back, what we are concerned is that they should make it, the process should go through the right channels.
Through the process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Robert, just before Tony comes in, and we're winding up, there has been a say in Kampala right now. I'm informed the NRM government is coming up with a structure which is going to be 26 floors. It's going to build like a famous UPC house. It's coming up with that structure. Have you heard such a rumor? And if so, why has it taken them 26 years to come up with a house like UPC house?
I think that would be a question for
I'm asking Robert because Robert has come up with a very good point saying term limits check on corruption, poverty, and so on.
Yeah.
Are we saying that this...
In 26 years they have accumulated enough money to
build 26 floors? All right, I'll leave Robert to that. Robert is done. But Modest, I'm very sure you've heard about this. The NRM house is going to be built. It's 26 floors. Why 26? Is each floor representing a year?
If they were 12, we would ask why 12. They designed along the program. We said 26.
There must be explanation for that. Yeah.
So the UPC...
We have taken more than... I remember one time, one of our friends, the late Muammar Gaddafi, contributed some money towards that, the buying of the plot, and of course members are contributing money. And it's not going to be constructed in 1 year. It will take more than 20 years to be finished. Members are there. The people well wishers are there, and members are there.
If it's finished next year,
that would be good. Finish on a loan, and what's wrong with that?
All right,
that's okay. That's developmental. I have an argument with that.
Okay, Tony, as we conclude.
You know, we are talking about the system in which we elect our leaders to represent the voices of the people. I want to just bring out one issue of the 112 districts. We can come back and debate this. You find that when districts are so small, government is spending more on administration than political administration of the people than service delivery. Because a district is supposed to generate enough income to sustain its administration, but this is not happening. So when you look at the budget for local government, it's so huge. And there's a justification for that, because they have so many districts. They have so many government officials in the districts. But this district, apart from propagating the political interest, the social and economic interest is not being done. So when you talk about referendum, the ruling party has got the power to talk about, it has got the
all that is already seen,
to go and tell the people what to do. So it's closer to the people. We are saying
but
this is good fair
Can I
narrative.
tell you something?
No, you will tell me, let me
Politics
finish.
is about influence.
Yeah,
If you
I
can't
know.
influence anything, then you better quit.
I know,
Sorry,
but
yeah,
I want us to talk as Ugandans. I want us to distance ourselves. It's very hard for us not to be politicians, but we are talking about issues of service delivery to the people. Do we really need 112 districts? A district which cannot even
Can I
pay
respond to that
taxes.
one?
No, not now. That's a big debate. That members, I'm going to ask a question each as we wind up, but I'll start with you, Tony. And this is, I just want you summarized answers. We've never had a smooth transition of power in Uganda ever since independence in 1962. Are we ready to see that in Uganda? Are we ready to
People are
see
ready. People are ready. I think Ugandans, because what is happening that Ugandans turn up in big numbers to vote. That is an indicator that they don't want to go and fight to change government. They want to use the ballot, paper. Peaceful. Ugandans are peaceful and they're ready for that.
Okay, summary.
But
yeah.
there's a frustration on how the elections are done, because even the chairman of the electoral commission, he doesn't know how many voters are there.
True.
And we have so many people appealing for the votes that are voting we are rigged.
Yeah.
So unless we iron up the electoral commission to come up with the actual numbers of voters, like now we talked about the national identity card, if that was out,
it's already
and you
out,
would know, but you know the corruption which is readed without the corruption.
Sure.
So we don't
won't
know.
go into the plan. Yeah. Thank you, Tony. So this is now my friend Robert. Robert, the question to you in summary is: do we need a referendum to decide whether we need a term limit, so that we don't leave it to the members of parliament, but we bring it out all Ugandans? Do we need a referendum?
If you look at the way things are done in Uganda, I would say yes, we do. Because I told you that anything in Uganda can happen because people are poor, people use money to float, to influence the ideas, and they say on behalf of the people, people have said. But a referendum can work in this.
If it is properly run and managed.
But again, at the end of it, you'll find that the influence of money has gone into this. And,
okay, now finally to you, Eddie. Eddie, my question to you in summary is: most of you are saying we are not debating this for the present, but even for the future. We want to see our children inherit a system where they know that a leader comes in, rules and goes, and someone else comes in. My question to you is: giving a specific term in Uganda, based on our history, I know you're very good at that history, and also you know what has been taking place in Kenya and Tanzania and so on. How valid is this issue of term limits? Do we really need term limits for leaders when we are still struggling? I mean, someone has given us an example. How many leaders have we had since 1963?
Yeah.
So do we need this, or it might bring in more political chaos?
I think we do need it because, like my colleague said, we have had 10 leaders. But under what circumstances have we had those 10 leaders? You know, has it been chaotic? Has it been organized like our neighbors in Kenya and Tanzania? No. You know, so term limits will probably bring us closer to organized transfer of power.
Excellent, good summary. And finally, to our man here, Mose. My question to you is very simple and a brief one. Can NRM survive without Museveni?
Oh yeah. Since it's inception built on individuals. You have seen we have lost so many people. We lost fighters during the onset. Very political commanders. But we moved on. Up this time. We have lost the political commissars, all leaders of all aspects.
True.
I believe that Museveni has taught us Can't I lead Uganda?
Oh, you can.
I'm potential leaders. Of course, there's so many of them in Canada. So we don't have a problem of who's supposed to be in case Museveni goes.
All right, members, we've finally come to the end of our political forum, based here in Sydney. Thank you so much to Eddie, Mose, Robert, and Tony for the debate. Join us next time when we come up with another hot issue to debate about Uganda on this very political forum here. Thank you so much for viewing, and have a nice time. Thank you.